Greetings, my name is Elizabeth Coble. For this project, I focused on the Methodist experience in the fundamentalist modernist controversy. Using the term Methodist fundamentalist, I found many primary newspaper sources from both the Library of Congress database Chronicling America and the Jerry Falwell Library database ProQuest historical newspapers. I narrowed the findings down to four, two from each database, to tell the Methodist story during the 1920s. Since this is not an area for which I have any background, I had to do a lot of research for context. Because of this, I have two source lists, one with the historic newspaper articles and one with five of the articles I used to help understand the historic newspaper articles. In my research, I considered the biblical principles and the study of history. For example, according to course guidelines, historians must be honest and objective in their research, which I applied throughout the database search process. Between approximately 1900 and 1940, American Protestants faced a conflict known as fundamentalist-modernist controversy. Fundamentalists insisted on the validity of each doctrine of Christian orthodoxy, and modernists advocated for an adaptation of the Christian faith in response to new scientific discoveries and moral pressures of the age. The controversy caused disruption in almost all of the large Protestant churches. The Methodist fundamentalist modernist controversy was not as dramatic as in other denominations like the Presbyterians and the Baptists. Main points of discussion happened in stages. Methodists had their general conference every 4 years back then, so the stages are reflected in the 1920, 24, and 28 general conferences of the Methodist Church North. In the 1920 and 24 general conferences, there were debates and changes to ensure conformity in Methodist doctrinal standards. This is reflected in one of the articles I found titled "Protestant Churches in Midst of Great Chaos," Dr. Elliott asserts at Methodist Ministers' Meeting. The article was from October of 1924. The fundamentalist movement climaxed in 1925, the year of the Scopes trial, but it still impacted the Methodist Church South General Conference in 1926. This is reflected in a different article I found titled "Methodist Halt Resolution Aimed at Modern Party. Fundamentalists Demand That They Be Ousted is Sent to Committee." By the time of the 1928 General Conference, the organized fundamentalist movement was already losing influence. During the 1928 General Conference, while there were further attempts by fundamentalists to include doctrinal statements that focused on countering modernists, much of this was voted down because the bishops wanted to unify the church against heresy hunting. This tone is reflected in two of the articles I found. The first was titled "Methodist Laymen Oppose Liberals, Fundamentalist Win on Vote at Baltimore Conference Session, 3 Stand Against." This was from the Baltimore Conference held a couple of months before the General Conference. The second, titled "Fundamentalist Scrap Avoided in Methodist Parley," and the article was about when the 855 delegates voted almost 10-1 against consideration of a resolution related to the modernist fundamentalist controversy. The resolution asked that the conference consider, quote, "widespread disloyalty throughout many divisions of the church to the doctrines of deity, virgin birth, original sin, and the second coming," unquote. By 1930, most considered the fundamentalist modernist controversy over in the Methodist denomination. While Presbyterians divided in 1936, the modernist Methodist leadership disregarded doctrinal disagreements to focus on reuniting the three large Methodist groups. In 1939, the Methodist Protestant Church, Methodist Episcopal Church South, and Methodist Episcopal Church merged to create the Methodist Church.